Jnanakosha, Puranas.
सर्गच्च प्रतिसर्गच्च वंशो मन्वन्तराणि च वंशानुचरितं चैव पुराणं पञ्चलक्षणम्.
Bhagavat Purana, Killing of Sakatashur. When Lord Krishna was 27 days old, a festival was organized in Gokul. Mata Yashoda bathed the baby while the Brahmins recited hymns. Yashoda saw that baby was feeling sleepy, so putting him in a cradle, she left it under a cart. The cart was loaded with pitchers of milk, curd, and butter. After some time, Lord Krishna awoke and began to cry for a feed. But amidst festivities, Yashoda could not hear his cries. Meanwhile, a demon Sakatasur rode the cart wishing to press the cart and thereby kill the Lord. But before he could act, the Lord touched the cart with his feet, and lo and behold, the cart turned over and all the utensils kept on it came crashing down. Even the demon was crushed to death under the cart. Other boys who were playing nearby informed the gopis that the little Kanaya had turned over the loaded cart, but they did not believe that kids. Yashoda ran in horror and lifted the baby in her lap. The Brahmins recited pacifying hymns then. Thereafter, the baby was bathed again with sanctified water. A feast of Brahmins followed them. Ultimately, they were seen off with many gifts. Salvation of Trinatavarth. Once Mata Yashoda was playing with the baby Lord in her home. All of a sudden, she felt as if the baby was getting disproportionately heavy. Soon she felt herself unable to bear the child any more. So she left the child on the ground and began to pray Purushottama, Lord Rama. Soon afterwards she forgot about the event. But all was not over yet. Trinavarth, a demon minister of Kansa, had arrived in Gokul as a fierce cyclone. He covered entire Gokul with dust and blinded the people temporarily. For a moment, people could not see anything, and during that moment, Trinavarth blew the baby in air with him. When the dust settled, Yashoda did not find the baby, Krishna, where she had left him. She felt extremely sorry and fell on ground in depression. Other women folk also gathered round her. They too began to cry, not seeing baby Krishna there. In the form of cyclone, the demon Trinavarth had blown baby Krishna with him, but he too could not bear his heavy burden. So he began to lose his velocity. Lord Krishna caught him by neck. The demon died in a few moments and his dead body fell in Vraj. And Yashoda got a new lease of life when she saw baby Krishna safe and sound. Nand and the other Gopas too were overjoyed. Naming of Lord Krishna. Once the supreme ascetic Gargacharya arrived in Gokul. He was the ancestral teacher of Yaduvanshis. Nand joyfully welcomed and treated the hermit. Then he requested him to carry out the ritual of naming and suggest suitable names for both of his sons. Acharya Garga said, "O Nand, everyone knows that I am the ancestral teacher of the Yadavs. If I carry out the naming ritual for these boys, people will understand that they are Devaki's sons." So Nand requested Gargacharya to name his sons secretly. Gargacharya accepted his request and carried out the naming ritual secretly in Nand's castle shed. Garg said, "This son of Rohini will cause by his virtue great pleasure for his near and dear ones. So his second name will be Rama. And because of excessive strength, people will call him as Bala also. Since he will unite the people also, so one of his names would be Sankarshana." Thereafter Garg said, pointing to Yashodanandana. He has taken incarnation in every age. In the past ages, he had taken white, red, and yellow complexions respectively. This time, he has taken dark complexion, so he will be known as Krishna. Once he has been the son of Vasudev, so people will call him as Vasudev also. He will cause salvation of all of you and great joy for the fellow Gopals and cows. With his help, you will overcome even the severe crisis. O Nand, this boy will be equal to Narayana in virtues, wealth, beauty, fame, and influence. Foster this child with care and earnestness. Thus, naming the boys as per their virtues, Garg returned to his hermitage. Childhood of Lord Krishna. Sukadev says, O Parikshit, time passed in Gokul as usual. Balrama and Krishna too grew normally. Soon they began to walk on knees and palms. With their childish plays, they both amused men and women, folk of Gokul. Everyone took special care of them and looked after them to save them from any possible danger. Ladies folk were specially careful about them. Soon afterwards, both the kids began to walk trottingly. Now their movement no longer confined within the boundary of their home. Because of his special virtues, Krishna began to lead other kids of his group wherever his elder brother Balrama was serious in nature. Krishna especially enjoyed teasing the girls and milkmaids of Gokul. Often he would eat stealing their milk, curd and butter. At other times he did not hesitate even to break their pitchers. In such situations the lady folks used to gather in Nand's home to complain against Krishna. And every time Yashoda promised them to punish Krishna. But every time when she proceeded to punish him, she forgot everything before his sweet, innocent smile. One day, Balrama complained against Krishna. Ma, the little Kanhaiya has eaten mud. Worried about Krishna's health, Yashoda scolded at him. Tell me, O mischievous Krishna, why did you eat mud? At that moment, little Krishna's eyes were moving with fear. He made an excuse. No, ma, I have not eaten any mud. They are telling you a lie. If you don't believe me, see yourself. Saying this, Krishna opened his little mouth. Yashoda peeped into his mouth, and what she saw there amazed her. She could not believe it. The entire universe was visible in his little mouth. Yashoda saw strange places, entire Braj, and even herself in the little mouth of Krishna. She felt dizzy. With his illusionary powers, Lord wiped out the memory of this incident from the mind of Yashoda, and she again immersed in love with her child. Ukhal, Bandhan and salvation of Yamala Arjuna. Once wishing to feed Krishna with butter, Yashoda began to churn milk in the morning. Very soon Krishna too awakened, and not finding the mother in her bed, he set out to search her. Soon he found her in the courtyard where she was churning the milk. He began to insist for breastfeeding at once. So Yashoda stopped churning and began to breastfeed Krishna. Affection played on her face. Suddenly the milk kept on. The fire pot began to boil. Yashoda left Krishna in order to attend the boiling milk. But the unsatiated Krishna, filled with anger, and broke the pitcher of curd. Then he went inside and began to eat butter. When Yashoda came back, she understood the matter and began to search him with a stick in her hand. After eating butter himself, Krishna was now feeding the monkeys with it. Seeing the mother come in hot pursuit, Krishna jumped over the mortar and ran away. Yashoda chased him, but soon felt tired because of her bulky body. Thereafter, Yashoda proceeded to tie Krishna as a punishment. She got a rope and tied it to Krishna, but the rope fell short by 2 fingers. She joined many ropes together, but the result was same. Every time the ropes fell short by 2 fingers. Soon Yashoda was bathing in sweat. When Krishna saw his mother in depression, he himself tied in the ropes, tettering little Krishna to a heavy mortar. Yashoda engaged in usual household tasks. Tethered to the mortar, Krishna glanced at the 2 Arjuna trees, which were standing on the gate like 2 sentries. He resolved to save them. King Parikshit asked Sukadeva about the trees. Sukadeva said, Parikshit, the lord of wealth, Kubera had 2 sons, Nalakubera and Manigriva. One day they were enjoying the sweet company of pretty women on the bank of Mandakini river. Just by coincidence, Devarishi Narada arrived there. Out of shyness, the women folk at once covered themselves, but both the sons of Kubera stood boldly without feeling any shame. Indignant Narada cursed them to become trees and stay in that form for 100 years. Narada showed kindness as well as despite being in tree forms, they would have the memory of God alive and would be saved by Lord Sri Krishna. Thus, to keep the words of his supreme devotee Narada, Lord dragged the mortar to the 2 Arjuna trees. He walked in such a way that the mortar got stuck between the trees. Krishna then pulled the mortar, and in no time the trees were uprooted. 2 divine men appeared from the uprooted trees and bowed at the feet of Krishna and prayed him with pure hearts. Then they departed to their heavenly abode. Migration of Vrindavana. The uprooted Arjuna trees fell with a thundering sound. All the people shivered with fear and felt as if lightning had struck somewhere. All the elders, including Nand, met together and discussed the matter. Unanimously, they concluded that the late disturbance had increased in Gokul and the circumstances were no longer conducive to raise the kids like Balarama and Krishna there. So they unanimously decided to leave Gokul and migrate to a verdant place named Vrindavana. In their opinion, Vrindavana had ample vegetation and fertility to support them and their cattle. Thus, on an auspicious day, the entire population of Gokul set out for Vrindavana. They packed their households on bullock cars and drew their cattle in herds and started in convoy. In Vrindavana, they built their houses and started their life once again. Sukadeva says, O Parikshit, verdant environment of Vrindavana, Govardhana mountain and crystal clear water and sandy banks of Yamuna river together filled the hearts of Balrama and Krishna with joy. Along with the fellow cohorts, they began diverse kinds of plays there. Salvation of Vatasasur. One day, Balrama and Krishna were grazing their cattle on the bank of Yamuna river. A demon meanwhile took the guise of a calf and mixed with the herd. Obviously, he had malicious intentions. Lord Krishna had already seen the demon taking calf's guise and mixing up with the herd. He signaled Balrama and they together reached near the calf. The calf appeared particularly healthy. So Krishna and Balrama mockingly saw it with admiring eyes. Suddenly they held the calf with its hind legs and tail, twirling it in air. They threw it in the sky. When the demon died, they threw him on a cut wood apple tree. Salvation of Bakasur. One day all the cowherds took their cattle to a large pond to let them drink water. There they saw a huge creature sitting like a hillock on the bank. They were frightened by its appearance. The creature was in fact a demon named Bakasur, who had arrived there in the guise of a stork. He was himself very strong and had a long pointed bill. As soon as the cowherds drew near him, the stork hastily picked up Krishna and swallowed him. Other cowards, including Balrama, were stupefied. They could not believe their eyes, but inside the beak, Lord Krishna made himself extremely hot and caused severe burning in demon's throat. So the demon could not swallow Krishna and regulated him and began to hit him with his strong beak. But Lord held his beak with both his hands and tore the demon's mouth apart. And as soon as the demon died, a ripple of joy surged among the cowherd. Salvation of Aghasur. One day Krishna planned a picnic near Nandanvan. So rising early in the morning, he awakened his fellow cowherds, sounding a horn. Together all the cowherds and their cattle went to the forest. There on the bank of Yamuna river they began to play joyfully. Nandanvana was in fact an abode of demon Aghasur. He was sent there by Kamsa. Seeing the boys playing, he felt extremely jealous. Knowing that Krishna had killed his brothers Bakasur and sister Putana, it seemed an ideal moment for the demon to avenge the death of his siblings. Thinking thus, the demon took guise of python and lay in the way and opening his mouth like an opening of a cave. The cowherds too fell in his trap. Thus driven by curiosity, all the cowherds entered the demon mouth one by one. When Lord Krishna saw that his friends had entered demon's mouth, he too entered it to protect them. Aghasur wanted to domesticate the cowherds, including Lord Krishna. But the Lord increased his body and choked demon's throat. Now the breath of demon stopped. His eyes rolled over, and at last his life left his body through Brahmarandhra. With his ambrosial eyes, Lord resurrected these dead fellows and their cattle, and together they came out of the demon's mouth. As soon as the demon died, a divine flame emerged from the python's mouth. It waited there sometimes for God, and when Lord Krishna came out, the flame mingled with him. Attachment of Brahma, stealing of cattle and cowherds. Sukadev says, Parikshit, the cowherds told the tale of Aghasur's salvation to their parents only after a year of the incident. During that period of 1 year, Lord Krishna multiplied himself and took the guise of his fellow cowherds and their stock of cattle to remove the illusion of Brahma, who was the cause of the following incidents. After Aghasur's life mingled with God, Lord Krishna came with his fellow cowherds on the bank of Yamuna. They felt their cattle to graze freely. They left them, and they sat together to take their lunch. All the cowherds tasted one another's food, as they wanted to feed Krishna with the tasty food. Meanwhile, surprised by Aghasur's salvation, Brahma too had arrived there and saw Krishna eating food supplied by the cowherds. With that sight, Brahma grew suspicious if Krishna was indeed an incarnation of Lord. Thus, driven by the illusion and to test the authenticity of Lord's incarnation, Brahma kidnapped all the cattle first, and when Krishna went out to search the cattle, Brahma kidnapped and concealed the cowherds also. Soon Lord Krishna understood the craftiness of Brahma. So he multiplicated himself into his fellow cowherds and cattle. Replicas resemble truly to the cowherds in appearance, complexion, nature, activities, voice, sticks, and even in costumes. The replicas remain in existence for complete 1 year. Back there, when Brahma returned after hiding the cowherds and the cattle, he was stunned to see the cowherds and cattle as usual. Brahma was feeling dizzy when Lord bestowed his grace on him. Brahma saw Narayana in every dust particle. Brahma therefore bowed his head at the feet of Lord and said, O Lord, I submit before you. You can be one only with devotion and not by ego. No one can know your omnipresent appearance. Thus saying, praying and worshipping Lord Narayana, Brahma returned to his abode. Shukadev says the cowherds remained separated from God for 1 year, but they felt as if only half a second had passed because of the illusionary influence of God. That is why they related the incidents of Aghasur killing to their parents only after a year it took place. Salvation of the Aneshwar. When Krishna and Balarama entered 6th year of their ages, they got the permission to take the cattle out for grazing. Along with their fellow cowherds, the two brothers too began to take their cattle to Vrindavan. Thus they sanctified the earth of Vrindavan with their pious feet. Seeing the beauty of Vrindavan with beautiful colorful flowers and sweet fruits, Lord Krishna felt overjoyed. He then used to graze his cattle at the foothills of Govardhan and on the banks of Yamuna river. Playing flute was his favorite pastime. One day Krishna's beloved friend Sudama said, Kanaya, there is beautiful forest named Talwan. It has uncountable numbers of trees laden with ripe fruit. But a formidable demon, Dhenukasur, guards that forest. He is very strong, so no one, even animals and birds, does not go there. But we are tempted to eat those sweet, delicious fruit. If you and thou, Balarama, wish, we may go there and eat those delicious fruit. Thus hearing this, Krishna and Balarama guided all of them to Talvana. There they shook the trees, and in no time a heap of ripe, delicious fruits gathered under the trees. All the cowherds began to eat fruits. While eating, they were also making a lot of noises. Disturbed by the sound of fruits falling and noise of the cowherds, the demon, the Dhenukasur, arrived there as a donkey. He was braying loudly and tried to hit Balrama, but Balrama caught him by his hind legs and threw him in the air. The demon died in an instant. Since that day, everyone visited Talvana fearlessly, and the cattle grazed there freely. Graze on Kaliya, the Nagam. One day, Balrama Krishna arrived on the banks of Yamuna with their friends. Balrama was not with them that day. The water of the river Yamuna was intoxicated by the poison of Kaliya, the Nag. It was exceptionally hot that day, and all the cowherds and cattle were very thirsty. So, without giving any thought, they all drank the water from Yamuna and died. But Lord Krishna resurrected them by his ambrosial sight. Then Lord Krishna decided to purify the waters of Yamuna. Thus, tying a cloth round his waist, Krishna climbed a kadamba tree and jumped into the river. In the water, the Lord started playing and splashing water. Soon the waves began to rise high. When Kaliya, the Nag, heard the noise, he got extremely angry and appeared before Krishna. He saw a beautiful, tender, dark-complexioned boy playing joyfully in the waters. He stung him and tied him in his spirals. Tied in the spirals of Kaliya, Lord became absolutely motionless. Seeing Krishna in death-like situation, all the cowherds and even the cows felt very sorry. Just then Lord freed himself from the hold of Kaliya. Then a game of hide and seek began between them. Lord dodged the Nag for a long time. Thereafter he rode on Kaliya's foot and began to dance there. The followers of God like Gandharvas began to play mridang, dhol, to give him a company. Tired from the blows of Lord's feet, Kaliya soon began to vomit blood. Naga's wives began to pray God, O Lord, your incarnation is to punish the evil ones for their sins. You have shown your grace on us also. We are fortunate to have a sight and touch of your feet. Pity, O Lord. This nug can no longer bear your momentum. He will die. We are all your slaves. Kala is our Lord. Kindly forgive him. With kindness, Lord released Kalia, who prayed thus, O Lord, in your creation we snakes represent Tamoguna, dark virtue. We are confused by your illusion. Lord dictated Kalia to migrate with his family to Ramanak Dweep. Since then, water of Yamuna became pure for humans and animals.